guys. So this is going to be a continuation of a video that I did about a year ago, actually. I don't know if some of you watched it or not, but it's called Fear versus Lack of Peace. So if you want a little bit of background about what I'm talking about in this episode, then you can watch it right here. And in that video, I was in Redding, California, if you guys remember, and I was talking about how I had heard very clearly that God told me that that place was home for me. And then as it turns out, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to be there, so I thought that, oh, okay, maybe I kind of misunderstood God a little bit. It wasn't that it was home permanently, it was just that it was sort of a home for a season, like a spiritual home of sorts. So that's what I thought for like the longest time. And then I realized about 2 weeks ago now, I was at a service. I was just visiting the service in this other church. And it turns out one of my teachers from Redding, California, is there speaking that night. His name is Dan Fairley. And that was a coincidence because Nashville's not really close, obviously. So just after talking to him about it, I just started realizing, because I talked about the church that I'm part of, and he's really encouraged that, oh, that's so awesome that, because a lot of people in my church that I'm part of here are people that actually went to Bethel School of Ministry with Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, and it was a very significant time for me. I've talked about it before. It really, like, a lot of my inner healing and a lot of my becoming secure in who I am and in my identity, and so many levels I can't even begin to describe how much that affected my life. It really happened during those 3 years, so it was absolutely pivotal in my life-changing. So I realized through talking to him, because even people on my worship team in first year are part of the church now, and I'm doing worship with them here almost 6 years later, 5-6 years later. And I just realized, oh, wait a minute. The church that I'm part of here is sort of like an extension of Bethel. Like, there's so many touching points. It's not that it's not a Bethel church, but there's a lot of relationship with the leaders, and even our pastor went there and spoke in the school of ministry a couple weeks ago, and so many people are here that used to go to that school, and I mean, not everybody, of course, but it was just really, when I realized that, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. This is just, like I said, just an extension, because I was really trying to figure it out, and if you watch that video that I did called Fear versus Lack of Peace, you'll know that I was, we hear something from God, and then it just happens so much. Like, God will speak something to us, and then something will come in to kind of almost try and minimize that, or make us think that, oh, I guess it wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't as significant. I might have misheard it. And then turns out he meant a lot more than what I originally thought. And this happens so many times. So many times I'm like, oh, I got it. I know you said this. I know what you meant. And then he just has something so much bigger for me. And for me, it's almost like, that Bible verse when it says, for this reason, a man leaves his father and mother to be with his wife so that they can become one flesh. And in a way, it's almost like the same way with the church that I'm part of. It's like I've kind of left the mother church, at least for me, and then go on to be part of something in a different part of the country that has the same foundation, and a lot of the relationships that I'd built over there, I can just continue here, which is amazing to me. And so wanted to share that with you guys. It's kind of like me correcting myself a little bit from what I thought. Well, I mean, I guess I didn't know, and sometimes you don't know until you're there, until you actually get to experience what it is that God means when he said a word. So if you got a word, if you know that God has spoken something to you, and for whatever reason it doesn't make sense yet, that's okay. Don't hang on to that just a little bit longer and wait and see what happens.